Well, welcome to the recording for web page design, and you can see that we're in week 4. In week 4 in web design, we're getting into the elements of design in HTML unit. This is a continuation of week 3. In week 3 you went through sections 1 through 3, and now we're going to go through sections, you can see section 4 and 5. Now in this, you can see up here this note, we're skipping a little bit of the work, so pay attention to what I have in this assignment list and in the grade book. Don't pay attention to what the presentation has, because we teachers cannot easily change those presentations. So I will tell you as I go through this recording, I'll tell you which things we're doing, which ones we're not doing. So I'm going to go ahead and slide on down here to Elements of Design in HTML, and again we're going into section 4 talking about graphics, but first I want to look at the Class Connect write-up. So looking at the Class Connect write-up in section 4, what is an important thing to remember when using graphics on a web page? What does the alt tag do? What 2 things must you keep in mind when using images on a site? Give the complete code to add an image called baseball from a folder called mypages.images. What is one technique used for stylish placement of web page components? List and describe 3 tags involved in making a table. So let's keep those things in mind. Alright, section 4, all about graphics. So graphics are important because it gives your document, your web page, whatever it happens to be, it gives it more pizzazz. It grabs the person's interest, and it could also give valuable information to whoever is looking at the web page. And you see that on web pages all the time, right? Some of the more interesting ones are ones that have graphics, not too many graphics, but useful graphics. And the thing to think about it, the one thing to think about when using graphics on web pages, does it contribute to the message you're trying to get across? That's what you need to always keep in mind before you use graphics. Is it contributing to the web page, or the reason that I have the web page up on the internet to begin with? Keep some things in mind too. Whenever you add graphics, it'll cause the page to load a little bit more, so you don't want to have too many graphics. You want to make sure they're not very large also. Now the easiest ways to help with graphics, remember we talked about ADA, that's handicap accessibility. Some people use the web blind and they can't see graphics, or they have a browser that doesn't load graphics. So what you can do is you can put what's called an alt tag on a graphic, and the alt tag says the description of what the image is. So the alt tag is really important. So that's the usefulness of an alt tag. And it's funny they mention that, but then in this graphic they have on this page, it does not have an alt tag. Because if I was to mouse over it, then it would say picture of 4 soccer balls or something similar to that. So that's what the alt tag is used. It's words used to describe what the image is. The differences in graphics, GIFs are obviously a common graphic, and JPEG, that's the one that you see mostly, but also sometimes people use PNGs, PNG graphics, but we mostly use JPEGs, which are photographs generally, GIFs, which are drawings, sometimes they're animated. Now image size is really important. Of course, the physical size of your graphic, you don't want to take up the whole page, nor do you want to be so small that it's insignificant. And one way that people can get around, if they can put a small image, but then you click on it, then it blows up. That's called a thumbnail. So you click on the small image, and then it opens up the bigger picture by itself, and then you can see that picture fine. Make sure the photo is the size you want it before you put it on the web page, because it's really hard to resize it on the web page. And when you think about the dots per inch, that's the printable dots. Generally 72 dots per inch, because that's all most computer monitors can display anyway. So 72 dots per inch is what you want to look at. Some attributes. This is how you do the graphic So what this would do is it says go get that source, the image source, and this is the exact name of it. If this is in a folder, it would say source equals, then it would have the folder that would be called maybe my folder / and then image name.gif. And then there's the alt text that goes in there. Then you line it up, means where it ends up showing up on the page, to the left, to the right, to the middle, etc. So take a look at these different ones. This one right here, this is going to get an image, and the image source is a folder called images, and it's going to get the soccer ball JPEG. And when you put your mouse on it, see how the word soccer ball shows up? That's the alt tag happening. Check that out. So that's what this does. It does exactly what this happens, what that looks like. Now this one, you can see that they put the centering command, so it centers it in this cell. And then they made that graphic. Then finally, this one, what they do with this, they just made the ball a little bit bigger. So they actually put the width and everything on the ball. This one, of course, it put a border around the ball. So you can see the different things that can be done, and on all of them, of course, when I put the mouse over it, it says soccer ball, so it has the alt tag. So that's some sample coding. Sample again on this found a picture of a soccer ball in a folder called images. And the command is image source equals, and then where that image is located. Now tables. Tables are really useful because they can help you organize your page. So some web pages, if you look at them and everything is well organized, it's because they've used a table for the stylish layout, but they've made the borders invisible so you don't think a table is there, but it can put things to where they look very well organized and laid out right. So tables are a great way to make web pages look stylish. And you can see this one, this is a table that they've created here. This table has 4 rows, 3 columns. Each of these boxes, of course, is called a cell, so there are 12 cells, right? This cell is called name, this one's called height, this is called weight. So you can see how they designed this. Now for a table needs to have 3 tags. It needs to have the tag that says, hey, we're starting a table. And then it says it marks the beginning of the row, and then it marks where the table data goes. So those are the 3 commands that need for a table. So all those commands are part of this table. Now if we scroll down below here, we'll see some more commands and the table that this creates. So all of these commands make this table. And they put the color in so you would see it. So if we take a look at this, we have the HTML, the head, the title, all of that, the body, etc. And you can copy and paste this text right here, copy and paste that into Notepad, save it as practice table.html, open it up and see what it does. But we take a look at this, and you can see that this says, right here, it says, hey, make a table. But then right here, it says, stop that table. You can see because it has the slash behind the word table. So it says, make the table. Then it says, first row. First row is going to have a cell with the word C in it, and the first row is going to have a cell with the word how in it. And then it says, stop that row. So these 4 lines make this top row. These 4 lines make the middle row, because it says right here, TR, it says table row, make a row. First cell, put the word it in it. Second cell, put the word works in it, and then end the row. Then finally, the third row that has cool and right in it, there's to make the 3rd row. Now, if you copy and paste this into a Notepad and then save it as an HTML file and look at it, your colors won't show up. They just put the colors in here so you could see better how things are organized. And you could practice with this. Go ahead and make that table, make it bigger. Go ahead and make it 4 or 5 rows and mess with that a little bit, just to get a handle on how tables can be done. Now this is an assignment called Web Colors assignment. We're skipping this. We may get back to it when we start doing NVU, but I'll tell you, this is a really challenging assignment, and I've had some students that have done well on it and others that really, really struggle with it. And it's hard for me to explain to students what they need to do on the assignment. If you want to take a challenge and see if you could code that table in, you're welcome to do it. Maybe I'll give some extra credit for it. Tables. Now tables, you can add any color to the cells of your tables, and of course you would do that with what's called CSS, and we've looked at CSS before. Remember, you used CSS when you did your Webmaster Roles web page assignment. So on this one, they're doing the practice table, and then they put a CSS, which means the table background. They want the background to be this color, the font size here, and then that's going to be the color of the font. And then they made a background too. So they made those CSS. Then they went down here and they created the table. And these lines right here end up creating this table. So I would suggest go ahead and highlight these lines. In fact, I'll go ahead and do it here. Copy, let me open up Notepad. Control V, I'll do File, Save As, and I'll go ahead and put it in Web Design. I'm going to create a new folder called My Practice. Called My Practice, and then of course whenever we do something like this, I'm going to do Table Practice. HTML. Table practice.html, save it. Now if I go to a blank browser window, then I can do File, Open. I'm going to browse to get it. And I know it's in Web Design in My Practice, Table Practice HTML, Open. Okay. And there's that table that it just made. Now I could go back into Notepad and I could do other things. Maybe I could change, let's see what happens if I change this background. I'll put 3 zeros on that. I have no idea what that's going to create. So File, Save. So I resave it. Then I'll just refresh my screen. And it doesn't look like it did anything. So that code wasn't any good. I could put more words in it. But see how this stuff. Let's see what happens. I'll take out the word it from that one. So File, Save. If I save it, refresh. So now you can see how this stuff works. So I made some changes there. So there's lots of things I can do. And you can see how easy this is. I have it open right here. I can just make my changes. Maybe I want this to be 16. Maybe I want this one to be 32. File, Save. I'm already in the browser, so I just refresh. So I can make all these changes just right here, just fiddling around with this. There's a certain color. I'm going to change this to see what happens with that. File, Save, refresh the browser, and that color I chose didn't do anything. So I'd have to go back to my color chart to see what that might do. So you can see all the different things we could do. Maybe I don't like how this works. Maybe I don't like that in Times New Roman. So I'm going to change that to, let's see, font colors, that's on the CSS. Well, that's the default, yes. Then I'd have to put the other command. So the Times New Roman is the default, so it doesn't have a command in here. So then I'd have to create a new font command and things like that. So I don't want to deal with that right now. Let's see right here. It's going to be how this stuff works. So File, Save, refresh. So you can see how this can easily edit that. So there's a little bit of practice with with this coding, just to see what it does. Now here they have you doing some extra coding, so go ahead and practice with that. Okay, changing rows and column sizes. So again, working with the same thing, you can see how you're going to adjust the border, adjust the column size, adjust the spans of the rows. All of those things you can do with the table. Now this is all in coding, and it is important to know coding, but when we start using NVU, you make the tables automatically by yourself. Real easy. This table formatting assignment we're going to skip, but if you want a challenge, you're free to see if you can create this table in coding, and I'll give some extra credit for that if you want to practice with that. And now we're getting into graphics. Let's go back to the write-up, see if we covered all the questions. Important thing to remember about using graphics, I talked about that in the beginning. What does the alt tag do? We talked about that. Two things to keep in mind when using images on a site. Other things to keep in mind is that they make the site, well, one of the main things is that, okay, what is the most important thing when using graphics on a web page? Use the graphic only if it contributes to the web page. What does the alt tag do? We talked about that. Two things to keep in mind when using your images on a site. You need to keep in mind the resolution and how fast the image loads. Complete code to add an image called baseball JPEG. Well, I showed you I showed you a sample of the coding for a picture in a folder. So this would be this picture if it was located in this folder. What would be the full coding for that? One technique used for stylish placement is tables. List and describe 3 tags in tables, and I showed you where those were. Section 5, what are 2 good websites to use for your own graphics? What are the 2 tags you use to make a graphic or a link clickable? So now we're getting into Section 5. So Section 5, talking about graphics. Now graphics, this is a lesson that has you go in and work with your Webmaster Roles page, and you're welcome to go do this if you want. This uses a web page called CoolText, cooltext.com, that allows you to create some really neat graphics. So you're welcome to go fiddle around with that so you can see the types of things you can do. But 2 really good web pages for doing graphic text is CoolText and Flaming Text. Those are 2 really good useful websites. And what you do is when you make those graphics, they are actually images that you end up putting them into your HTML coding. But you don't need to do that work. You can mess around with it if you want. This assignment we're going to skip. The website titles assignment, so don't worry about that. CoolText buttons. And some of you might want to make buttons for your assignments as we move along in the class. You're welcome to. So you can go in and create these buttons that can put, as this shows, put cool text onto your web pages. You're welcome to do that if you'd like to. But we're not going to worry about creating this portfolio page. Discussion assignment, we're skipping the discussions in this class. Don't worry about that, but you certainly could think about it. And actually one of the write-up questions actually has you look at good and bad design of web pages. Portfolio setup assignment, don't worry about that, we're skipping that. So that's the end of this unit. So let's go back to the Class Connect write-up. What are 2 good websites to make your own graphics? They showed you some in the lessons. What are 2 tags to make a graphic clickable? I don't think we talked about that. So if we want to make a graphic clickable, that's creating a button. And to create the button, to make your button clickable, it needs to have the href. That ends up making it clickable. And it needs to have this end. So those are the 2 tags that it needs to have right here to make a link clickable, to make an image clickable. What else do we have in that write-up? Okay, find a website that you think has good design and why you feel that way. Make sure to include the URL. Find a website you think is badly designed. Describe why you feel that way. So make sure you do those. Okay, the work for this unit. You're going to do an assignment called HTML code identification. So you click here, and on this you're going to analyze the Greener Than Green web page. So if I click on this, it opens up the Greener Than Green web page. Check this out. And on that Greener Than Green web page, you're going to view the source. You should know how to do that now. Choose Edit, select all, then copy and paste all that code into Notepad. So if I do, let me show you what that happens with that. I'll go ahead and click that open again. View, Source, Edit, select all. Then I'll do Control C. Then I'll go into Notepad, clear out this old one. Control V to paste, and I've pasted all of that coding into here. Now what I see how the coding comes in, and some of it is kind of hard to see how it's organized, but you can fix some of the spacing on these things to make it all a little bit easier for you. There's all the coding for this green web page. So once you get all that coding into Notepad, you're going to examine the coding and determine these different things. For instance, what is the coding that puts the word chartreuse on the page? Well, if I go back to that Notepad, the coding that puts chartreuse on the web page, that's this exact coding right here. That puts chartreuse on the web page. And actually, it doesn't include that BR. Leave the BR out. This puts the word chartreuse on that web page. So you're going to go through this, answer these questions. What is coding that puts the word forest on a web page? What is coding that puts the word green on the front door, etc. So that's the assignment you're going to do. You're going to analyze that coding. And then, of course, you have the quiz for this unit. And as always, I provide the quiz preview. So you'll be all ready to do that. So not a lot of work this week. You should be able to get other things caught up if you aren't caught up. So please get those things done. I look forward to your work coming in. And I look forward to everybody raising their grades. Thanks for watching this recording. Bye.